Alright, it is time for part 2, which is using the program. How do you use it? What are some of the features that it has? And of course, I'm going to do my best to help you not to be like this guy. But I think I would be doing myself a disservice here if I suggest anything other than this. I could have taken the entire half hour to go through this program and it still wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface. I've had a chance to mess with some of the additional features on there, which are really cool, but splitting this up into three basically 10-minute parts, give or take, I'm only going to be able to show you so much of what you can do and how you do it. So obviously getting out there and looking at different resources, whether that's YouTube or just Googling different things. There's just only so much I can do with the time I have, so hopefully I can help get you going and give you some other tips and other things that maybe you didn't know, but we'll see what I can do with the time I have. So here we go. Alright, in order to get to here, GeoGebra.org, and right away you see materials, which I'll just real quickly go into here. It's some different things that they're showing you how to do, some different proofs, like up here we have we have the Pythagorean theorem. Maybe I missed it. So we have some different things that they're doing here, rotating a triangle, and then some other materials. So you're welcome to explore those and get a feel for what they have going on there. As you can see here, they list 463 plus thousand free and interactive materials that you can potentially use. So you're welcome to take a look through those on your free time. We'll go to that at the end. Downloads. The very nice thing about this is that this can be downloaded onto a phone, onto a tablet, and of course onto a desktop. So this program is easy to access for anybody, anywhere. So better than some of the other ones I've seen. I've talked about Geometry Sketchpad and how it's not available except if you purchase it. It just makes more sense to use something like this because it's available everywhere. So we'll go ahead and start, and we'll go to some of the bigger things here. I'm going to spend most of my time on geometry and algebra, but of course I'm going to show you the 3D graphics and some of the things you can do there. We'll look at the probability of the spreadsheet, and we'll look at this here as well, and I'll show you as much as I can, but there's only so much we can do here. Alright, so I keep mentioning I use Geometry Sketchpad, so I'm pretty familiar with how some of these things work. So, going into this program, I already had some ideas of what some of these things can do, but what's nice is all of these buttons have a drop-down box, which then offer other things. Now, what's kind of annoying about this one is you always have to go back to the arrow thing, which Sketchpad kind of has something similar to that, but it seems, I don't know, once again, one of those clunky things that you're like, that's kind of annoying. So, we have points here, which are one of the most, it's the building block of geometry, okay? We have lines, and here is where you can pick your segments. You can pick your rays, your vectors and everything else. So you just kind of pick these, because a line has 2 points, and that's kind of what they're waiting for. That's why it's not stopping anywhere. And we just need to click somewhere else. And notice how, like a line, it extends forever in both directions. So if I try to do something like measuring the distance of this line, it doesn't like that. So let's see how it's not giving me anything because it goes on forever. It doesn't have a distance. Okay? So that's one of those intuitive things that you can once again remind your kids of, because oh sure, we all get a line goes on forever, but when they actually do that and have to type in because it goes on forever I can't measure it, that seems to mean more to kids when they actually have to do that. Okay, so over here we have some things like how to mess with the X and Y axis, which we give when we do the algebra stuff here. We can also change what we're looking at as far as if we want to add in the algebra part of it, a spreadsheet or anything other stuff here. Over here we have some of the other things we can do, editing objects. So like I can click on this and I can edit this object change the name of it. I can change the label. I can change the color. Okay, so I can make it red or green or anything else, which is actually something that Geometry Sketchpad doesn't have that I think is really nice, because it allows you to then draw several lines up here, and it's much easier to see them if they're different colors. They don't run together quite as much. And we change the style. How thick is the line? How thin is the line? Everything else, what kind of line is it? You can go on and on with this stuff. Obviously, we aren't so worried about advanced colors, but that's some of the things that you can mess with as you're doing this. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this line. Okay, and one unique thing about GeoGebra that Sketchpad does not have is this idea that objects are stacked onto each other and therefore have an effect after the fact. So notice how I deleted the line, but my points didn't disappear. The line was added to the 2 points. So the line was added on. And one thing that we explored that I thought was really cool is if I have these things here, and I connect them together, so I can move this around, and I can move that around, okay? And I can move the line around. But as I add a point to this, my point can slide, but I can't move this around at all. And that's pretty cool that adding something onto another object allows me to manipulate this object, but not the original thing that I started with. Okay, so that's one thing that you'll have to go through with your students. We have things like tangents and best fit lines, angle bisectors. Okay, talking about how an angle bisector works. Drawing an angle up here and then showing the angle bisector, perpendicular lines, parallel lines. Now the one thing with this, and what's really nice that this program once again does that Sketchpad does not, and I'm going to have to bring this down here so you can see it, is this help part at the bottom. So you'll see at the very bottom here, it says line, select 2 points. And if I go to perpendicular, it says select point and perpendicular line. It's actually hinting to the user about how you create a perpendicular or a parallel line or some of those things like that. So if you're confused, you can actually use that to help you figure some of those things out. Okay, and that's really cool. So as I keep going here, this is how we create our shape. So after I connect 3 segments together, if I want to make it a triangle, so I can then manipulate the triangle, that's here. Creating different circles, an ellipse, hyperbola, parabola, creating your angle measures, finding distance, finding area, which Sketchpad does not have, finding the slope of an object, which Sketchpad does not have, and then some of these other things like reflecting, rotating, and everything else. So select the object you want to reflect, then the line of reflection. So thing like this, I can reflect this here, object, then the line, and there it is. And so what you'll notice is as I move it, see how that's changing the other one as well. So as you talk about things like reflections, you can say, well, it preserves distance across. So if this is really close, well, the other one's going to get really close too because they are the same distance from the line. Okay, so there's some of those things that you can talk about with your students. We can rotate and everything else, translate by vector, dilate. Okay, up here as well we have text. So for our project we typed everything in the second document. You can actually type right on here. Okay, you can write a text right on here. Okay, which is pretty cool. Sliders, which I simply just won't have time to get into, but it allows you to move things along a path similar to Desmos does. Hide objects, zoom in, zoom out, all those different things. So there are just so many features here, and just the exploration behind it is really just so important. And once again, I can mess with colors and thickness and everything else, which is also cool. It makes it easier to visually see what's going on. Okay, so we're going to get out of this, and we're going to go to an algebra one. Okay, so this is the other part of it, the part that's a lot like Desmos, in that we can now graph different things. So, for students to be able to really see what's going on, this is so important. So now they can actually understand, y equals x squared. Okay. That's all nice, but what happens if I change, oh, not cube, okay, make it negative. So that's what it changes about it. So now if I do y equals x squared plus 1, what is that doing? It's moving it up 1. So you can do some of those explorations as far as how are these little pieces manipulating how these things are changing. The other thing that's really cool as well is notice how my geometry stuff is still up here. So I can place a circle in here and we can look at circles. We can do an ellipse, hyperbola, parabola there. I can also find the area of a shape. We talk about distance formula in class a lot. This does the same thing. It finds the distance between 2 points. We can do midpoints and find the location of a midpoint. Okay, so as we go through this, there are just so many cool things that can be accomplished with this program. Okay, and once again, it's so much like Desmos that it's very easy to understand that this could do what Desmos does. Okay, so it has those two main features, which I think are probably the two most applicable features on GeoGebra that I think most teachers would use and most students would enjoy working with and messing around with. Okay, but now into something that's kind of interesting, and time is not going to allow me to do all the things I want, but the 3D part of it. So what this is, and obviously we have the X and the Y, and then the Z is the red. So if I just graph, I'm going to graph a cone. Okay. I have to select 2 points and then what the radius is, so that's the little part you can't see, so I'm going to select that point. And notice how I can pinpoint where exactly, and it kind of follows through with what I'm doing here. So I'm going to pick that point. I'm going to pick a radius of 10. So I'll make it nice and big. Okay. And from here, I can now rotate what we have going on. So I can see this a little better. I can see what's going on. Okay. So I have that. Now what happens if I do a y equals x squared line? Okay. So notice how this creates a parabola, which from top view I cannot see because it is not three-dimensional. Okay. It only has the 2 dimensions, but there it is right there. Okay. And this creates a cross section within my shape here. Now beyond this, there are so many more features that we could go into with this. So once again, I wish that I wasn't so short on time. A half an hour is simply not enough time to show you all the different things that I could do here. And this is going over the 10 minutes I was expecting to spend. And once again, I didn't even get a chance to show you some of the other things that you can do here. But as you go through this, creating these different shapes, you can look at how they all work together and how the pieces that are important. With a pyramid, you got to pick the points, thereby creating the base. You can certainly measure the volume of the different shapes that you put in here. Okay, we can reflect and do all that other stuff, rotate, translate, dilate. Okay, so all that stuff is still up here for use within this 3D thing here. So I'm just going to real quick go into the spreadsheet, which would allow you to do some statistical things. You can see here we have different analysis, 1 variable, 2 variable. We can find the sum, the mean, the max, the minimum. Okay, we can do all of those things as well. So a lot of application to statistics. And then we also have this probability one, which has a distribution thing here. So we can change the p-value. We can change how it's distributed, either an upper bound or a lower bound, or between 2 bounds. We can change the variance and the deviation. So all these different things that you can do with GeoGebra, and I'm running out of time. So that is a quick run through of all the different features. It is so awesome, and there's just so much more that you can do with it. So I hope you learned something. Thanks.